Hey everybody, welcome. In this video I want to do a little bit more detailed explanation on how I make rings, segmented rings. Talk a little bit about the angles, talk about a little bit about the size and how I actually cut them and glue them up. So what I'll do is I'll just go through the procedure of how I make a ring, a specific ring. So what I do first is I have this chart that I got off the internet. It's basically a list of the different size rings, the finished size rings, and then the angles at the angles that you cut to get a certain amount of rings. So for example, if you just want 4 segments, like this one is 12 segments, but if you just want it, for whatever reason, you just wanted 4 segments, it would be a 45-degree angle, and you would get 4 segments would make, so if you wanted a 3-inch ring, the sides would have to be 3 inches long. If you want a 6-sided segment, it's a 30-degree angle you need to cut, and if you wanted a 3-inch ring, each segment would have to be an inch and 0.73 inches long, so on and so forth. What I typically do is a 12 ring segment. Some guys like to do higher rings, it looks more detailed. Some like to do less. It all depends what you want to do. This video is not on how you're going to design your bowl or whatever. It's just the basic how I make a ring. So anyway, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a 12-sided ring at 11¼ inches long, 11¼ inch diameter, so that's going to be 3.01 inches. So I'm going to make 11-inch 250 diameter ring. Right, so the outside of the ring is going to be 11 inches 250. So each little segment here, so from here to here, so from this end to this end, is going to have to be, so here's your segment. So from here to here, it's going to be 3-inch 0.01. I know, I'm not a good artist. And again, so these angles are going to be, they're going to be 15-degree angles. It's going to be a 12-sided ring. It's going to be a 12-sided ring, and I'm going to make it out of this walnut. So let me show you how I set up my jig and how I cut them. So first let me just explain what I have here. Table saw. I got this throat plate that I made with this special little ledge here. So when you cut the segments, they kind of fall away from the blade. I have this slide, this jig, which I'll explain a little bit, but I'm not going to explain how to build it. There's awesome videos just concentrating on just how to build these segmented sleds. I have a little stop here for setting up the length of my cut. So let me bring you a little closer. I'll show you how I set up the length of the cut, and then we'll go on. All right, let me go over this setup a little bit here. So like I said, I made this throat plate with this little drop so that when you cut the segments they go away. I have a little stop block here hooked up to my fence, and I have my sled. You go online, you look up table saw segmented sled, and you're going to find a couple different designs. I like this design. It works well for me. You find the one you like. Got this little track this little rail that rides in the track. That determines your cut. You're always going to be slicing on the same spot on the blade. So that's what this stop is for. I have this set at 3.01. That's what we wanted for this ring. So I put it right on the end here, and I bring my stop block up till it touches. I have a little mark on the stop block just in case my fence or this block is not perfectly straight. I always try to go to that same mark because I know that's where I measured it at, so I'll be, a lot more accurate. So now that you have that length set, every time you use that as a stop, you're going to cut the same size length segments. Okay, now I purchased these angle templates online. I don't remember the guy's name right now, but I'll look it up and I'll leave it down in the description. They're a little pricey, I guess, but they're accurate. He does them on like a nice CNC. They're perfectly, the angles are exact. So you got, it's a whole set, depending on how many segments you want to cut, the different angles. This is what I usually do, the 12 segment. It says 30-degree angle here, but it's 15 degrees on each side for a total of 30 degrees. So basically, what you do on this sled, you see there's slots here, so this moves back and forth. Wing nuts holding it all together. You drop your template in there, you push it in, you loosen these, you line it up. It's lined up right now, but you make sure there's no gaps in between. Tighten everything up. Now you're set at each of these are 15 degrees for a total of 30 degrees. So you're set. So now let me show you how and explain a little bit more on how I actually cut the pieces. Alright, so we're going to start cutting our segments now. So what we're going to do is on here, you're always going to reference the same side of your piece of wood. You're not going to flip it every time you go to cut it. You're not going to spin it around, whatever. You're always going to reference the same side. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our first angle in, because obviously you don't have an angle in there yet. So you decide which side you're going to start on. You pick your first angle. You don't have to use a stop block because it's only the first angle. So I'm going to turn on the saw and make a little noise. Hold it up against your stop here. Okay, you cut your first angle. So now you're going to take this and you're just going to, like I said, referencing the same side. So here I'm only using, I got little arrows here, I don't know if you can see it. I'm only using this side and this side of the stops. So I cut my first angle. Now you take it, you move it up here. Now you bump it up against your stop. Now when you cut it, it's going to be 3.01. So I'm going to start this again. My cut. Come back. This is here. Reference your stop. Cut your next one. Bring it back. Lift it. Reference your stop. So you cut your 12 plus segments. I always like to cut a little extra in case one doesn't come out right or whatever. You could always use them. So now I'm going to gather these up. We'll go over to the bench. I'll meet you over there. Alright, we're at the bench. We have the segments that we cut. Sometimes you'll get these little nibs hanging out. Just have a piece of sandpaper, just knock off the nibs. Don't sand it where you lose your angle or anything. Just basically want to knock the nibs off. So now what you're going to do is you're going to start laying them out. What I do is I start laying them out. I try to just do like a lay them out, flip them around, just try to kind of line it up the best you can. Pick out the pieces that you like better. See, that one's got like a little crack in it. That one's got a little hole in it. So and you kind of tell if they're going to line up okay or not. What I got now are these hose clamps strung together, different sizes. This one might be okay. I have a little nut driver set up in my drill. I think I need a little bigger. What I usually do is I'll dry clamp it first. Got to be careful, like these little corners sometimes get in your way. So what you could do is just like loosen this one and tighten the next one. Until it's out of your way. You turn it, whatever. Alright, so you tighten it up, gives you a great idea of how they're gonna line up, and this actually looks really good. I mean, this is hitting here, so that kind of looks off, but it looks good. If the angles weren't lining up perfectly, what you can do is when you go to glue it together, you take half the ring and then you put a little piece of dowel in there on each side. So you would glue all these joints and all these joints and leave these unglued, clamp it, and then take this on the sander. We don't have to do that now. So what we're going to do now, I think I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to show you the gluing process. Pretty much what you'd think. Glue it and clamp it. But anyway. Ow. I always like to use an excess of glue. You could always clean it up later, but you can't put glue in after you clamp it. So kind of just rub it together. Rub it, make sure it's fully covered. When I get to this last one, I usually really load up everything because you're not really going to be able to get in there and rub it that great. So you want to make sure there's enough glue in there. Throw your clamp on. Start tightening them up. I'm trying to be careful here so these little connections don't interfere. You know, you want them to kind of try to end up on the side if you can. Pretty snug. So what I'm going to do, oh man, spin it so I have easy access. Crank it down. You want it pretty tight. Line them all up. And I'm bleeding. Line them all up. Tighten it up again. You clean it up a little if you want. I usually just hit it on the sander afterwards. All right, it's been a few hours. I'm going to unclamp it. And the seams all look pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and hit it on the sander. Well, there you have it, all sanded down, nice and flat. If you have a thickness planer or a drum sander that you could send it through, it'll do the same thing. But that's what I have and that's what I use. So now it's nice and flat and it's ready to be glued to another ring, to a base, whatever you want. Obviously, you'd have to do the other side if you're going to do a base and a top, but you get the idea. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped someone. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, like, share, all that good stuff. Leave a comment. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, feel free, please go and watch my other videos. Thank you so much for watching.